All right, welcome to another great episode of Framing New Heights. My name is Michael Hicks. So welcome back, and where the podcast where we're not just chasing big goals, we're building them for you for the life that you want, that's sustainable for a long period of time. My name is Michael Hicks. I'm your host with founder of Liv2Thrive, where today we're going to really dive into something that might be sitting with you. It might sting you a little today. Maybe the kind of life that you actually want to sustain. You may want to continue to listen to this podcast episode today. And we're really going to go in. We're really going to dive into something that might, in a little bit of way, find a way that is the best kind of way for you, if that makes any sense. And you know what it is? It's boundaries. And not the Instagram quote kind of boundaries, not the I'm cutting everybody off kind of boundaries, right? You see all these memes of like, hey, to all the people that hated me in 2025, and he's sticking up the middle thing, emoji bird thing, and the same person I'm going to be in 2026. No, it's not that. I'm talking about the real, practical, identity level boundaries that separate the version of who you are that keeps talking about change, right? And from the version of you that actually becomes it. I want to talk today about why knowing your goal is not enough and why most people quit 3 feet from their actual breakthrough, and why you will fall back into old patterns without support, and how boundaries are the quiet, unsexy superpower behind every transitional story you admire. Now, I want to give you a few words. That's a little bit about the podcast today, the episode that I'm going to drop. Here's a few words from our sponsor. Can't sleep, got the aches and pains. You got to check out the CBD oil, which is Amos tested. It's proven formula. If you got aches and pains, you just cannot sleep. This product works super well, and I highly suggest it for all of your needs. And you can simply get 50% off at checkout by simply going to the website, which is superfungummies.com. And you can only order the CBD oil from there, and you get 50% off with promo code New Heights, all cap locks, 50% off, New Heights. You're going to sleep better. You're going to feel better. And sleep is one of the most important things that we can have as we age, and even as we're working into our prime as well. So I'm going to pull a lot of today's episodes from my Liv2Thrive program. And yes, you're probably going to hear a lot of things from people like Mel Robbins, people like The Rock, people like Tony Robbins, Craig Greschel. These are some of the mentors that are in my life, but I'm putting my own Liv2Thrive spin on it. And it's really helping me. This will help you kind of develop the framework that you need as you jump into 2026, which is the mind, body, and soul. It's no fluff. It's no perfection. It's just real, honest truth that is really going to help you uncover what's really going on when you do not set boundaries. Like why you feel guilty saying no. Or maybe why people pleasing is quietly reckoning your health and your faith. And I'm going to go do something pretty intentional here. I'm going to give you some basic Liv2Thrive truth of how is rarely a lack of information that you have. It's really a lack of structure. It's a lack of accountability. It's a lack of support. So if by the end of this episode today, you should feel the pull in your chest. right? The calling, and that you're done living like this for as long as you've lived like this, and you're ready for more. Okay? So just know that this is just the next step. All right? Let's get into it. For those of you that know that my name is Michael Hicks, I have an agency. I own an agency called Liv2Thrive, where we empower you to become your best version of yourself through my mindset program with my body program, as well as discovering your purpose, which I call soul. So if you have goals of losing weight, maybe sleeping better, maybe stop snapping on your kids, right? You want to make more money. You want to get closer to God, feel like maybe yourself again. And instead of the version of you that's always running on fumes, you don't have a goal problem. You know what you have? You have a boundary problem. So let me talk about this. Think about this for a particular second here. Okay? You say you want more energy. However, you say yes to everything and everyone, and you still are feeling exhausted. Okay? You say you want a deeper relationship with God. However, you're only going to church on maybe twice a month or maybe one time a week. Yet on your phone gets more attention than your Bible does, or even your quiet time. You say you want to grow in your business, in your career, in your livelihood as a father, as a mother, yet your evenings disappear on Netflix, aimlessly scrolling, and mindlessly eating. Now, I'm not judging you by any means. I'm been that particular person. And there's a season in our life where you want better for other people. And there's been a season in my life in particular where I wanted to be everything for everyone else. You know, I wanted to be the coach. I wanted to be the teacher. I wanted to be the dad. I wanted to be a partner. I wanted to be the friend. I wanted to be the leader. And what I was doing is I was saying yes to everyone's requests, whether it be an extra task, whether it be an extra coaching gig, or do me an extra favor. Hey, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. And I was getting praised for it. And because they would say things like, "Oh, Michael, you're so dependable," or "You always keep showing up, and we can always count on you." Yeah, those things are dangerous. There's a dangerous truth behind all of that. And if you're not setting boundaries into this new year, in this new season, you're going to quietly fall apart like I did. You know, I can remember one particular night where I was just sitting alone in the dark after teaching clients, coaching, parenting, hustling, building. I just thought for a second, I thought, if I keep living like this, excuse me, if I keep living like this, I'm going to resent everyone I say yes to. Has that ever been you? Have you ever felt that? That was me. Truly me. And here's the reality. Goals are exciting. However, boundaries are uncomfortable. And that's why most people never truly transform. And we're addicted to the feeling of wanting change. We're addicted to that feeling, right? Not the change. We're addicted to the feeling of wanting change. However, we're really allergic. Oh, excuse me. We're really allergic to the friction that accompanies the change piece, that actually protects it. Your brain loves comfort. It loves comfort so much, and comfort says, you know what it does? Here's what comfort says. Sure, I'll stay late. Sure, I'll do it. Don't worry about me. Or I'll start on Monday. Let's do it on Monday. And then, or maybe if it's once things just slow down, then I can really focus on me again. I hear this so often through journey calls with potential clients, through casual conversations. And you and I both know, you the listener, that things never just slow down on our own, y'all. They never do. And in fact, if you don't draw a line in the sand, the world's always going to cross it. They're not going to know that particular boundary. You know, people love to quote, especially me, and most people do, but people love to quote The Rock talking about, let's outwork everybody in the room, right? You know, what gets missed the most is the non-negotiables through that. He's not casually deciding whether to train. He's creating a life where his boundaries protect the identity he's committed to. Or let's even use Tony Robbins for an example. And Tony Robbins has been one of my mentors and one of my coaches, where he talks about raising the standards. Those are boundaries he talks about. And when you say, this is how I allow myself to be treated, this is how I treat myself, this is how I spend my time, you're raising your standard. And another favorite of mine is Mel Robbins. She talks about the gap between feeling like doing it and actually doing it. The edge where your brain attempts to talk to you out of what you really need to do, right? The boundaries are what already decided for you. So you don't keep negotiating with your feelings. So if you're someone right now listening to this podcast that says, I know what I want, however, I just keep falling off. Or maybe I've set goals early in January right now. We're coming up to January when this will drop. And by March, you've already stopped. You know, most people, when they go on these New Year's resolution goals, they stop by the third week in January. And maybe you want to lose weight. However, food's a comfort. Or maybe you want better relationships with your significant other, your kids. However, you keep saying yes to things that truly drain you. I want you to hear this. And truly, this is a pivotal piece here. You're not a broken problem. You know, you're not your broken problem by any means. It's just a boundary problem. And you're attempting to build a new life with the same old doors wide open. So you haven't closed any of those doors. I want to move into my Liv2Thrive framework for a second. And where we're not going to separate your life into little disconnected boxes, which I don't do that. I want to look into your mindset, your body, and your soul together. And if you attempted to fix your body and ignore your mind, you're sabotaging progress. If you work on your mindset, but your soul is truly starving, you'll always still feel empty. And if you dig into spiritual growth, yet your health is wrecked, you won't ever have the capacity to live it out. So I want to walk you through some things. Okay? Jot this down if you are writing about this. These are critical pieces here that I really think would benefit you significantly. So as I walk you through this, boundaries of the mind, I want to walk you through. Boundaries of your body, which is your temple, and boundaries of your soul. So let's first of all uncap the boundaries of the mind for a second. It's the first battle, which is always in our head, right? It's the second guessing of ourselves, the evil or the devil on one side and the angel on the other, right? So a lot of my clients that I have worked with deal with things of, man, I just completely overthink everything. Or I talk myself out of going to the gym almost 4 times a week. Or I replay conversations over and over in my head hours and hours after they happen. Or maybe you're the one that always says, I always feel like I'm not doing enough. Is that you? Well, I got the truth bomb for you. Here's the truth bomb. The truth bomb is, drum roll please, your mind is like a neighborhood. Okay? If you don't put some edges, anything can drive in, park, and then make noises. Interesting philosophy of thought, right? A boundary of the mind might look like something like this. Let me break it down. I don't talk to myself in a way I wouldn't allow someone else to talk to my child. I give myself 5 minutes to reflect, not 5 hours to ruminate. I don't make life decisions when I'm exhausted and emotional. It's a big one for me. If I'm not emotionally in that conversation, I will shelf it. And when my brain starts spiraling out of control, I have a phrase or practice that brings me back. I had a client of mine who constantly said, Michael, I am so far behind. I'm failing at everything I do. I should be farther along in life than I should. You know, what that did to that particular client is it didn't motivate that client. You know what it did? It paralyzed her. And we didn't start with a strict workout plan. We started with boundary language around herself. Anytime she heard herself say, I'm failing, she had to follow it with, yeah, but however, I'm learning. Which one is more accurate? Ask yourself, am I failing or am I learning? Because that's the boundary and that's the why piece. And your nervous system will not move forward in life if it feels unsafe in these areas. And if your mind is constantly in a war zone of criticism and maybe comparison and maybe self-hate or self-doubt, you will always keep self-sabotaging your goals subconsciously. Proven. I see it day in and day out. You need boundaries for your mental diet, right? Ask yourself, what do you consume? Who are you listening to? How do you speak to yourself? One of the biggest things is I've realized that since I've been on my growth journey of biblically and becoming closer to God, is I really, really am aware of what I consume. I'm aware of what I consume with my eyes. I'm very aware of what I consume with my ears and the people around me too. And how do I speak to myself? Gosh, I hear it so much, how people talk so negatively about themselves. If you don't, your old story is going to keep ruining your new season. So jot that down as you're getting into this new abundant season. Let me go into boundaries of the body for a second. Let's talk about that. Your body is not a random vehicle you just get assigned to. I've used this so much. It's your earth suit. We haven't gotten to the day of age where we can be like Iron Man and put on a different type of suit and become a different person. Your earth suit is your ministry. It's your access point to your life, your marginal center point. And a lot of people will say, I want to lose weight. I want more energy. I want to feel more confident in my clothes. Cool. You know what those are? Those are outcomes. And the deeper issue is the why piece. You want to be able to play with your kids and your grandkids. You want to be able to walk up a flight of stairs without feeling ashamed or out of breath or exhausted. You want to look right in that mirror and not just see fatigue and regret, yet hope, leadership, follow through. I had a client let's just, for time's sake here, let's just call her Jay. She came up to me and she weighed 229 pounds and wanted to lose 30 pounds. And when we really unpacked some of those things, it wasn't truly about the number. She just felt tired of starting over. She felt tired of quitting on herself. She felt tired of feeling like her body was proof that she had broken promises to herself, basically lied to herself. So what we did is we set up some boundaries that had nothing to do with perfection. If you have to live a perfectionist life, you're going to constantly struggle with broken promises. So what we did is no more going all day without eating and then binging at night. Okay. There was no more using alcohol to relax every time stress hit or binge eat when a certain circumstance happened. There was no more treating movement as a punishment. So what we did is we really focused instead on simple, sustainable boundaries. And let me break some of them down for you. So what we did is we implemented walks 3 to 4 times a week. Maybe if they were just for 15 or 20 minutes, that's a good start. We also then talked about 1 plate at dinner at a time, not eating standing at the counter and then aimlessly scrolling, which was happening. We talked about 6 out of 7 days where we basically called it making it basic wins with food instead of chasing that 100% perfection. And guess what happened? The weight started coming off. And more importantly, and I talk a lot about this in my programming, is her identity shifted. That's the piece that people miss. She went from, I'm always starting over, to I'm a woman who follows through now on what I say. And guess what that is? A capital boundary with a B. And it's not a diet. It's not a 30-day cleanse. It's a boundary between herself abandoning behaviors of her old self and becoming the new self-honoring self that she wanted to be. And here's the why. This is big. If your body feels like it's consistently being neglected or abused, your mind and your soul will struggle to believe you're worth good things in the long term. So then that can even get into sticky relationships. You are okay with people treating you really poorly because boundaries of your body are not about restriction. They're really about respect. They say things, I don't run my life on fumes and expect to feel joyful. They say things like, I don't treat my body like a trash can and then ask to perform like an athlete. Or I move my body. You know why? Is I'm grateful I still can. Those are beautiful things to take place. Now I want to give you the boundaries for the soul piece, which is the purpose piece. Now, this is soul level boundaries. This is deep stuff that I'm about to give to you here. You can crush it in the gym. You can eat clean. You can set morning rituals. You can still feel empty. The soul is where your meaning and your faith and your why lives. Okay. This is why my programming works. This is where I see a lot of my high achievers break down. They've stacked all of their external wins, right? However, on the inside, they feel hollow. So a soul boundary may look like this. I don't start my day in silence. Instead, I started with coffee and binge scrolling or the news. Instead, I teach them that scripture or prayer before I open any type of device. I don't keep relationships in my inner circle that are constantly pulling me away from God instead of calling me to Him. The third one is I don't sacrifice my integrity to get ahead. And Sundays, this is big. Sunday is just not another work day. It's a reset day. And I think of my client who came to me saying, Michael, I just feel distant from God. I used to feel His presence. Now I just feel numb. And we didn't solve that overnight. Now, I have programs in place that are 90 days to 120 days. I want to be very clear. We developed a way to build one simple boundary. And in 10 minutes each morning, we did that simple boundary. It was no phone, no noise, just scripture, journaling, or I call scripting, and one question. And that one question that I used for this particular client was, God, where do you want me to lead today? Now, these 10 minutes were spiritual boundary and a line drawn in the sand saying this simple thing. The world does not get me first any longer. God gets me first. God wants the best from us. And what to say this, and I'm thinking here, and I want to say this to someone that's truly listening out there. If you feel like your faith has becoming just another box to check, you might not need more spiritual tasks. You might need fewer distractions and more honest conversations with God. Because boundaries of the soul protect your ability to hear, feel, and then respond to the one who made you. You know, Mel Robbins talks about how you can think of your way into a new life, you have to act. I want to add more onto that. What I would add on to that is you don't get to scroll your way into peace. You need sacred space, which is the mind piece, the body piece, the soul piece. So these three areas of your life that you're begging for more boundaries with, and it's not because God wants you restricted. It's that your freedom always has a framework behind it. Does that make sense? All right. I want to transition here into some stories when people refuse to give up. And let's talk about, I want to talk about real people for a second and I don't want this to be a theory. Let me be really clear here. The first story that I'm going to talk about is the overwhelmed. This may be you, the overcommitted client that I had. Okay. And I broke this down. I had numerous clients come to me in this framework. And I worked with some clients. And one particular that I think of is a mom of 3 who was juggling a demanding job, sports schedules, home management, her marriage, and had zero time for herself. Her words, I'm going to get them to my best of my ability that I remember, but they were something like, Michael, I feel like I'm doing everything for everyone else and no one sees me. And maybe right now when you're listening, you can really relate to that. Her goal. And she said, I want to feel like myself again. I want more energy. I want to stop feeling like I'm always behind and failing someone. And we didn't start with a 10-step project routine that was perfectly implemented. We started one particular boundary. No saying yes on the spot. No more saying yes on the spot. If someone asked her to volunteer, maybe pick up an extra shift, maybe help with something, she had to say, let me check. I will get back to you. Okay. That one boundary gave her a pause, which is critical, a window then between her people-pleasing person that she is and her actual capacity. And you know what she told me a few weeks into this simple concept? She said this bold statement. She said, I didn't realize how many times I was sacrificing my health and my peace just to avoid disappointing other people. And you know what happened? Her energy improved. She started sleeping better. She layered in particular walks, made better food choices, and then developing a little bit more of a scriptural practice routine. And it all started with one boundary that says, I will not give away my yes without thinking any longer. Why am I telling you this? Well, I'm telling you this simply because you might be waiting for your life to give you some more time. We all have the same time, 168 hours in a week. We may not get that time, because then when reality hits, you need a particular boundary that creates that time that you need. I want to share another story with you, a personal season of burnout. And let me bring this really intuition for you. And there's a point in my life where, man, I was teaching, I was coaching, I was parenting, I was building my brand and my agency, my Liv2Thrive agency. I was doing a podcast, and I was attempting to do everything and help everyone, right? I hit a wall. I got sick, really sick. I was proud of the impact I was making, yet my body was tired. I was fatigued. My emotions were raw. I was jumping and lashing out at people I shouldn't have. My margin was gone, and I'd get home, and my daughter deserved so much more from me. However, she was getting leftovers. And I had to be honest with myself at that particular time, because I was like, Michael, you coach people to be in alignment, yet you're slowly getting misaligned. So I had to set some boundaries myself. And I want to share some of those boundaries that I set with you. I said, no more late night scrolling when I was exhausted. If I'm watching a movie, I set a particular time. I'm in bed by 9:30 on the weekdays. There's no negotiation piece there. No more saying yes to every opportunity just because I thought it was a good idea. I had to always protect my quiet time. My sleep was so important to me. And I wanted to be present where my feet were, especially when I was home. And it was easy. My ego loved being the guy who could handle everything, right? Yet the same ego had cost me my health, my joy, and my relationships. And so if you're listening and you think like, I should be strong enough to do this alone, I want to gently give you a little pushback. Most people do. They think they can do it by themselves. And then they're part of that high 90% failure rate of that resolution that you're about to make. The strongest people I know are the ones who always ask for help, guidance, suggestions. The most successful people I know do not do it without coaches, without mentors, without a structure. Now, I want to give you some people. The Rock has coaches. Tony Robbins has coaches. Mel Robbins has systems. Tony Robbins has a team and framework. I've got coaches. Why would you think you're the one person on this earth you should be able to white knuckle your way through life without any type of support? Something I really want you to think about as you're navigating into these New Year's resolution goals. I want to give you a third story. There's a client that was in my program who wanted to quit. And I'm just going to call the client L for this one. She came in hot. She was all in. She was motivated. She was ready for change. We laid out this awesome plan of mindset work, movement, food shifts, spiritual practicing, boundary exercises around her scheduled time. Week 3 hit. It punched her right in the face. Here's what happened. Her kid got sick. Her work exploded. And then guess what happened? Old emotional patterns came roaring back in. She'd show up on a call and say, maybe this just isn't who I am. Or she canceled a few times. And she'd always would fall off. And maybe I'm not meant for a change, she would say. I looked at her directly. And for those of you that are catching this on my YouTube channel, if you haven't done so already, please be a subscriber. And thank you for all of you that are subscribing to my YouTube page. You can check me out on Spotify or anywhere, wherever you listen. Please do give me a 5-star rating if you are enjoying this podcast, and share with 5 of your friends. It really, really hits home and helps everybody else. But so week 3 hit, she got sick. Her work exploded. Old emotional patterns came back, and she just kept self-doubting herself, right? That maybe this is not who I said. I looked right directly at her, and I said this This is not proof you cannot change. This is proof that your old life doesn't want to lose you. Everything in her environment was pulling her back into that familiar, same old, same routine, no boundary having, chaos having, survival mood routine. And then what we did is we anchored in on these three things. What was her bigger why? Who she was doing this for and who she wanted it to be. Number two, her identity. Not as someone who was always quitting, however, as someone that was learning to stay and not run, right? And then the last one was the support system. I refused to let her crawl back into that isolation piece. So fast forward, she didn't become perfect. She became different. And she learned how to fall. We all are going to fall. And how are we getting up? Slow. She began to get up faster. She built stronger boundaries. She had more time because I did a self-audit for her on her schedule, and she had more energy. I think I got her back 2 hours in the day. She started to actually believe I don't have to be the person I was last year. So it's almost like shedding, right? That's what refusing to give up really looks like. Not never being tired, not never stumbling, yet deciding your old story doesn't have to have the final say. It doesn't. Here's why you, the listener right now, need support and structure. Now, I'm going to land the plane on today's podcast. And I want to land the plane by talking about something a lot of people underestimate. You're not supposed to do any of this by yourself. You know, you've listened to this episode and maybe you felt a calling out. Maybe you feel now seen. Maybe you feel challenged. Maybe this motivated you. And maybe you even feel a little exposed. And I hope that was what was supposed to happen. I'm happy. I'm like literally good and happy for you. You know what it means though? It means that it means something in you is awake. And here's what most people get stuck at. Okay? They listen, they nod, they feel fired up, and then nothing else changes. And it's not that they didn't mean it. It's that their life is so loud, they don't know how to lower the volume. And their old habits are so strong, and their environment is familiar. And without any accountability, a simple structure, or someone holding the bigger vision when you forgot, you're always going to drift back and you're going to go to old patterns. So why don't you just finally say enough's enough? You know, I've watched it with teachers, doctors, CEOs, lawyers, entrepreneurs, parents, athletes, moms and dads, people of faith. The pattern is the same. You're not weak. You just need more support. And you're not weak for wanting support. You're actually wise for seeking it. You know, The Rock says success is about constant hard work over and over again. And Tony Robbins says your life changes the moment you make a new decision and back it up with a new standard. And then Mel Robbins, love her, says you're never going to feel like it. You just have to move first. At Liv2Thrive, my brand, my agency, here's my spin on all of that. You don't rise to the level of your intention. You rise to the level of your structure and your support. S squared, I call it. So I want to leave you with a few questions to sit and ponder for you as we end this episode today. And as you are navigating into the new year, here it is. What's one area of your life that is screaming for a boundary? Is it your time? Is it your food? Is it your phone? Is it relationship? Is it your workload? And what are you pretending isn't a problem because you're afraid of what it could cost to change it? And even better, number 3, if you keep living exactly how you're living at this moment with the same boundaries or lack thereof, what does your life look like 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now? Because what would happen if you had the support, the coach, the community, the framework, the scripting, tactical, proven formula that would do and help you believe you could be different all at the same time? Those questions, use those as a mirror. And if something in you is saying right now, I cannot keep doing this by myself, I need a different way, listen to that. Because there's a version of you that's stronger, that's lighter, that's clearer, that's more aligned, who's begging you, please don't quit on me at this time. Please build the boundaries that will finally protect who we're becoming. And you know the what. And you know the why. And when you're ready to stop attempting to figure out the how alone, you know where to find me. Until then, keep setting those boundaries that build you confidently, successfully, internally. Keep refusing to settle for your life where your fear wants you to live. And as always, keep framing for new heights. My name is Michael Hicks. I am your host with the most, and I truly hope that this podcast resonated with you as you are beginning your New Year's resolution journeys, as changing and becoming the person that you want to become. If you need any information on how to get to that next statement, the next spot, check out the show notes. As always, my name is Michael Hicks, the host with the most, 1% better in mind, body, and soul. And always stay flexed.